Man, I'm never going to retire. I'm going to show.
on this beautiful October 23rd Monday evening. I heard it's supposed to snow coming up this weekend, so enjoy it while you can. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Education, D38 Board of Education regular business meeting. The information, the Board of Education maintains a webpage on www.lewispalmer.org, through which members of the public can find live streaming information and meeting records, including presentations and resources which may be reviewed and discussed during the meeting. Ms. Wood, would you please take the roll call?
Mr. Clausen.
Here.
Mr. Norris.
Here.
Ms. Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Schwartz.
Here.
Ms. Upchurch.
Here. Okay, at this time, we have some students that are joining us. We're starting a new precedence. But at this time, can I get Kaya and David, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Woods?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Okay. At this time, I just want to remind everybody before we go into our regular part of our meeting, for our public guidelines, per policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings, there's one time for public comment and it is limited to 30 minutes. In an effort to allow all who wish to speak, the amount of time dedicated to each speaker will be dependent on the number of people who sign up, with the entire public comment period not to exceed 30 minutes. If 10 people or fewer sign up, each person will have 3 minutes to address the board. The sign-up petition for public comments will be available, and it has been available since 5 p.m. in the Learning Center meeting room. It's in the back. All speakers will be asked to limit their remarks to the time allotted based on the total number of speakers, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. There will be a timer, and there will be a bell at the end. The sign-up sheet for public comments will be, if a group of people has similar concern for the board, concerns, the board requests that a spokesperson for the group be selected. And the board respects the rights of the public to speak on matters concerning the operation of the schools, and we believe that the public comments that are critical to district staff, however, often cause unnecessary harm to those employees and to the education of our students. As a result, we prefer that members of the public share any criticisms of employees in written with the superintendent, who is responsible for supervising all staff and then involving the board as necessary. If you choose instead to address a personal issue publicly, please understand that the board does not endorse the comments of any speaker and reminds all who speak that they assume the risk of legal action by district employees in the event of an affected employee believes that any comment about them violates the legal standards. And lastly, we ask that you keep in mind that we do have K-12 students in the audience often, so please keep all comments appropriate to those students. At this time, we are, grab this, okay. We have our recognition, we have community recognition. We have the American Legion that's with us right now from the Tri-Lakes post 9/11. And we also have, I want to inform everybody, our superintendent, Dr. Casey Summers, for the first time has been unable to attend. So we have our assistant superintendent, Miss Amber Wetstein, and no doubt Amber will fill in Dr. Summers' shoes just fine, and I look forward to this. So at this time, Ms. Wetstein, would you like to introduce our guests?
I would be happy to. It is my honor to recognize American Legion Tri-Lakes Post 911 this evening. We started conversations last school year regarding their mission to educate the next generation on the U.S. Constitution, American democracy, and patriotism by having veterans visit classrooms. And since that time, they have completed many hours of work creating classroom lessons on American history and have begun to present these lessons in our classrooms. So we are so grateful. Most recently, veterans visited our classrooms during Constitution Week this September. So I would like to recognize the members of Post 911, Mike Christensen, Commander. Mike is a retired USAF Lieutenant Colonel, past commander of the Airborne Command Post, and military instructor, mentor, including preparing curriculum. Terry Carver, Vice Commander. Terry is a retired USAF Colonel, served as a USAF JAG military lawyer, also for 29 years. Randy Fritz, past commander, who is a retired U.S. Army colonel and served as Civil Affairs Preventative Medicine Officer for Northern Iraq and served multiple tours in Iraq in civil affairs. And John Russell, Lieutenant Colonel, retired. John served in the U.S. Army for 25 years and was high school ROTC instructor for 25 years. So let's give them a round of applause. And we'd like to ask you all to come forward and speak a little bit about the work we're doing in our schools.
Well, I really enjoy doing this. Now, I'm part of District 38. My son coaches basketball. My two sons graduated from District 38, and I've got two granddaughters in District 38. And I enjoyed it. I was very pleased at how quickly the kids got involved in replies and some of the things that I told them about the Constitution. Their eyes opened up, and we did some examples, and they were pretty excited about it. And it was very rewarding for me. I hope it was for them.
Excellent. Terry, I have to do the same thing.
Terry Carver, and I just want to say what a delight it has been to work with Amber and Pam and Annette and the social studies teachers as we have worked collaboratively, not just on topics for Constitution Day, but as the social studies teachers have identified subject matter and grades where we can provide some supplemental information on the Constitution and our form of government and the history, especially surrounding some of the constitutional amendments. It has been a true joy. So we really look forward to this joint project with D38. Thank you.
It occurred to me as I was standing here thinking what I'm going to say is that several years ago, I think 2007, 2008, my daughter, also a colonel, JAG, U.S. Army, and her husband, an Army Lieutenant Colonel, deployed together to Iraq, and my wife and I, living in Palmer Lake, were their family care plan. So we gained four girls aged 1 through 10 for about 8 months. I would teach high school ROTC at East High School in Denver, come home, do diapers and whatever needed to be done. But 2 of those girls were in Lewis Palmer Elementary School. One is now a Lieutenant JG in the United States Coast Guard, and one is now a senior at Pratt Institute of Fine Arts in Brooklyn, New York. I was given the assignment to teach 66 fourth graders something about the Constitution. I told some friends that I would rather be deplaning at Tan Son Nhut Air Base in Vietnam than do that. But I did. I over-prepared. I ran over my time. but the students were wonderful. The teachers were most helpful. The staff in the building at LPES was wonderful to me as well. So we look forward to continuing this, and it's going to be scary, and we're going to have to be smart, but that's a good thing for old people like us. Thank you.
So I'm Mike Christensen again, Commander of the American Legion Post 911. Just wanted to thank you guys for letting us get into your classrooms. I know Randy and I were out here last year with the Memorial Day presentation at the last day of school over at Palmer Ridge, so we both went over and talked to some students there. Understand you want some pocket constitutions, so we've got a donation of 500 pocket constitutions coming to you. So we'll work with that. And two things are Boys and Girls State of the American Legion. Very important for your juniors in high school to apply for that. The American Legion Auxiliary are the two entities that do the Boys State and Girls State. We'll make sure they get to go to that 1-week course in June. Last application date is 1 May of 2024. So get your juniors to do that. If they're, it's a critical thing on any resume when you're going for a college. It'll help tremendously. Again, thank you.
Wonderful. And I think we have a certificate to present to you and probably want some pictures.
Yes, but I also want to say and commend you guys for thank you for you're helping to educate the next generation of our students who are our future leaders on the U.S. Constitution and democracy and patriotism, and the fact that our veterans and our other generations, I was going to say older generation, but I'll just say other generations, role modeling and teaching our younger generation. I think it's a tribute to the community that we have here in D38 and how strong that community and that value of partnership from all ages is in educating the future leaders of our country. So thank you so very much. Board, does anybody else want to say anything?
Well, I concur with everything that Ms. Upchurch said, and we sincerely appreciate you bringing the Constitution in the classroom. It is a great service, and as a board, what can we do to better support you and your activities with our district?
Well, our hope, as we presented this idea to Superintendent Summers and to Amber, is that D38 finds this partnership between us and your social studies teachers at various grades of value, and that it enriches the students' understanding of our governmental system and the Constitution, and that we can make this an ongoing partnership, and that as part and parcel of that, those students that graduate are even better prepared. And I know the rep of D38, it's outstanding, but even better prepared to be informed and active citizens, which are so critical to our system of self-government. So I would just say we've been met with enthusiasm, and so we're just hoping to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Again, I'm John Russell, and I will be the action officer for Boys State, though I've handed in my resignation, but nobody ran up to take the torch from me. But I ask for your support in getting entree into the counselors' offices when they're having one of their weekly or monthly sessions. I know what counselors do and what they don't do and so forth, having spent 25 years at high school teaching. But there's one other thing I'd like to make sure we cover, and that's entree into the world of homeschooling, because homeschooling juniors going on to senior often do not know that Boys State and Girls State are open to them, and we want to make sure that we get the word out into the community. We can only do so much with next door, but if I could go find that person and say, I need to put something in whatever your weekly your homeschool newsletter is, that would be a very big help. Thank you very much.
And just out of curiosity, for our juniors and seniors who are wanting to apply for those scholarships, where would one find how would one access information?
You go to online American Legion Auxiliary for the Girls State and American Legion Department of Colorado for Boys State. It's on there. That's where I got most of my information the fastest.
And you'll send the links and we can send that out. So again, and thank you for the pocket constitutions. That's great. That's been something I wanted to see happen as well personally. So thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the gratitude that everybody's expressed here and thank each of you for your service to country.
Yes, thank you all for your service. Wait, not done yet.
Ms. Upchurch, would it be possible to have our 2 honorary board members join you for the picture?
I would say, how about all the board? Yes.
So we'll start about here. Start about there. Scooch on down here. There we go. Y'all look like you know what you're doing. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Other cameras in the shop, sorry. That's great. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. Appreciate all you do. Appreciate your service to our country. Appreciate it. I'll work for some help. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you again for your service. All right, we will move on to item B2, public comments. And before we move to public comments, I read the public comments content already, but I also wanted to just give everybody else a heads up. After we do public comments and we do board comments, we're also going to do our high school student representative updates. And I think that Mr. Schwartz will introduce our students, and then we will go from there. And then we will move on to our superintendent's update. Okay, so we have 2 citizen comments that have signed up. First is Theo Martin. Good evening.
Theo, may I just ask ahead of time, since we are live streaming and we may have some K through 8 students listening, is there anything that's sensitive? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to double check.
My friends are dying. I am dying. Students across our district are in an unfathomable amount of pain, and it is not being acknowledged. In May, I emailed the school district a 20-page exhaustive paper on the reasons why students are suffering and how to fix the issues themselves. I spoke about it at the meeting immediately after. I have yet to hear from one school board member to talk about it. None of the solutions were implemented, and not one issue was addressed. These solutions were as follows: open-minded student outreach, LGBT support, being efficient with resources, free and accessible in-person connections, addressing the mental health crisis and suicides with empathy, mentorship, and safe adult relationships. The day after my best friend Iris, also known as Jackson Moss, killed herself, I emailed the school board again. I told them that the mass emails they sent out harm the student body's mental health and the deceased's memory. They told me I must keep in mind the careful consideration of the most genuine and heartfelt way to communicate this information with the broader student body. And then they misspelled her name. The email they sent out, does it seem familiar? It should. It was copy-pasted from the last time. Do you know what the fact that this is copy and pasted tells us? That this, student suicide, is a protocol for you to execute. Our deaths are protocol, and you don't care to do more than that. Not only did my pleas get ignored regarding the email, but they brushed off the homophobia and transphobia in the district that contributed to her declining mental health. I'm cutting, and I want to kill myself. I can't do this anymore. Everything is just so awful. I don't think I will ever be able to come out or transition at this point. It's painting a massive target on my back, and I'll start getting harassed constantly. It's getting worse, if anything, just listening to people in the halls and such. These are the words of Iris the week before she committed suicide. Trans acceptance is suicide prevention. The LGBT community, specifically trans youth, are not supported in your schools. The consistent and hateful, ignorant comments made by school board members and candidates are proof. More of your students will die if you do not take action. We do not want cis kids to become trans. We want trans kids to become adults. Iris was a child, and she deserved better. We deserve better. Do you know the #1 killer of children ages 10 to 24 in Colorado? Well, it's the same thing that killed her. How many of your students are dying that you cannot even double-check the spelling? How many of your students are dying that this becomes a half-baked protocol and nothing more? It is not a top priority. Why are our students dying, you ask, but you don't care to hear the answers. I handed the school board the answers on a silver platter last May, and not only did you fail to implement it, but you failed to acknowledge it. We are dying, your students are dying, and we are merely a protocol for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Theo. Jackie Burhans.
Hi, it's kind of hard to follow that, but I am here, in fact, to follow that and to offer my solidarity and my support to Theo and every other LGBTQ student and community member in this area. I think she said it better than I ever could, but there is just unprecedented pressure and hate against LGBTQ students, as she said, from board members, from candidates and more, and it has to stop. There is no reason for it. It is a made-up, worry that trans kids present a danger to other people. More likely, they are endangered, and that's why you see kids harming themselves and committing suicide. Lewis Palmer has the motto, every student, every day. Well, if you're going to support every student, some of those students are LGBTQ, some of them specifically are trans, and you must support them. Your #1 priority is safe and healthy schools. They must be safe for trans students, for all LGBTQ students. This is not optional. Kids are dying, and we cannot stand this anymore. You must do something. And I am just incredibly amazed at the bravery of our students to stand up and talk to you guys to your face. It's hard enough as an adult, but as a student, as a young person to do that, you really need to take notice. I beg of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay. Next, we'll move on to B3, which is board member comments, and we'll just go down the line and start with you, Mr. Schwartz.
I have no comments, thank you.
Would you like to introduce our, do that later? Okay.
Yeah, what?
Ms. Phillips?
I have no comment this evening either. Well, actually, I do have one. I want to recognize my husband who's here tonight because there are only two board meetings left for Mr. Clausen and myself. And my husband Tyler happens to be here tonight. And Ty, I just want to thank you for all the support over the last 5.5 years. Thank you very much.
Mr. Clausen?
Ms. Phillips, you took my punch. I was going to acknowledge Mr. Phillips. It's a big commitment to have a spouse serve on the school board, so thank you for letting us borrow your wife a couple times a month for 4 hours or for 4 years. And also want to thank you to your service for our country. We failed to recognize the other members that are currently serving in the armed forces. Also want to say it's good to see our friends from Monument Academy, and we look forward to hearing from you shortly.
Mr. Norris?
I have no comments.
Well, I want to say that it is brave, any student, to come up and speak and share and advocate. So thank you so much for advocating for yourself and for your fellow students. And it is important, and it is that we need to ensure that all of our students are educated in a welcoming, safe environment. So it doesn't matter who you are as a student, you should be able to feel safe and welcome in our schools. I also want to acknowledge and say again, our service members, I want to say from the American Legion, thank you. I know they had to take off real quick, but thank you for your service to our country and to our community. And a reminder to everyone that November 11th is Veterans Day, and November 10th, many of our schools around our community will be having celebrations. And then I also wanted to share that we will not have a board work session on November 7th because that is Election Day. So our last board meeting where we will send our appreciations to Ms. Phillips and Mr. Clausen will be on November 13th. I don't have a lot of words to, I don't have words right now. I will share that through democracy, don't forget that voting is on November 7th. I did attend the CASB, I shared this a little bit, but we attended the CASB delegate assembly last month, and I was proud of D38. And I hope that we continue to engage and welcome our students and find ways to have our students' voice be heard more. And so as an example, we have 2 student representatives that we are going to start doing. These student representatives are not voting members of the board, but they are part of the discussion in our community. And this is a way for us to build bridges for young and old to be a part of the democracy that's in our community. And so our 2 students that are with us today is Kaya and David. Kaya, did I say that correctly? Thank you. Kaya and David, they're both from Palmer Ridge High School. Kaya is the student body president, and she's a senior, is on the volleyball and tennis team, and the president of the Ridge Rage, which is our school spirit at Palmer Ridge. She's also on club volleyball as a right outside hitter. Nice. And she's a travel bug, and her academic interests are business and public health, and she'll be speaking to us today about homecoming and the harvest of love. And then David, who's a sophomore at Palmer Ridge High School and is the co-secretary, is studying to get the seal of biliteracy in Spanish and English, and your influence in both right now. Yeah. Nice. And David also volunteers to help the English learners and the ESL students at Palmer Lake Elementary School and is a DECA member. You have competitions coming up, don't you? So at this time, why don't we start? We're going to do just like we do with the board, and we'll start with you, David, if you want to share some words with us.
Well, I'm just happy to have the opportunity to be here, and really excited to hear all that's done in the government in our community.
Kaya?
I would like to give an update on what Palmer Ridge has done recently. The first week of October, we had homecoming week, which one day we hosted a Ironman volleyball, which is men's volleyball, across all 4 grades. And then on Wednesday, we had girls, juniors, and seniors compete in a flag football game. Unfortunately, the seniors lost, but that's okay. And we are very proud to host our annual Harvest of Love Week next week. Harvest of Love is our annual food drive with Care and Share of Food Bank of Colorado Springs, and it works with Colorado Springs and Pueblo. And Harvest of Love, we do it with also Lewis Palmer High School. So we're going to kick it off this Saturday at Palmer Ridge High School parking lot from 4 to 6 p.m. We would really like to see a lot of our community members there this year. And we will have a lot of clubs from both Palmer Ridge and Lewis Palmer High School there with trunks with candy and games. So we'd like to see a lot of you guys there. And we will also have food trucks like Kona Ice there as well. And then during Harvest of Love Week, we'll be accepting monetary donations as well as non-perishable food items, again, all going to Care and Shared Food Banks of Southern Colorado. This year, we're going to implement a new incentive for our students, and we're going to compete with Lewis Palmer High School since we are the monument rivalry. So at the end of each day, both high schools are going to count their total for both monetary donations as well as food donations, and we're going to post on our social medias and kind of use that as advertisement and again incentive to donate more. And we will also be doing restaurant nights with Costa Vida and Mod Pizza both on Northgate on Wednesday and Thursday of next week, and they will be giving back a percentage of their proceeds back to Care and Share Food Bank of Southern Colorado.
Excellent, good job. Ms. Wetstein, are you ready for the superintendent's update?
I am. It is an honor to present the superintendent's update on behalf of Dr. Summers this evening. We have a lot of good things to share. We always start with our district vision, mission, and strategic priorities. And I think several folks already mentioned this evening our commitment to elevating the futures of every student every day. We held a successful candidate forum on September 28th. Thank you to all the partners for helping make this event successful, especially Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce, our moderator, Rob Kirk from News 5, and other media partners who served and covered the event, but especially Tri-Lakes Tribune for a thorough write-up. I'll also mention the recording is posted on our district website for those who have not yet viewed it. Congratulations to our very own Andy Vries, who earned one of 25 nationwide Harbor Freight Tools for Schools awards. He was selected for his teaching excellence in elevating career and technical education in the region, and his award of $50,000 will be used in several ways, primarily to support the CTE program at Lewis Palmer High School. So congratulations again to Mr. Vries. And our fall concerts are in full swing. We always are proud of our D38 music programs at all levels, and we invite the community to attend these wonderful concerts and to support these young musicians. Several recent concerts you see here, and we do have some upcoming opportunities for the community to attend. A jazz combo concert on October 24th, as well as the Palmer Ridge High School Band Fall Concert Classic on October 27th. And we also have acting excellence on display. We recently were able to cheer on Lewis Palmer High School's production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which ran from October 5th through 7th, and tickets are currently on sale for The Addams Family, performed by Palmer Ridge High School students, coming soon. So we encourage you all to take advantage of that opportunity. Thank you also to Mayor Mitch LeKind, who recently visited Palmer Ridge High School students. Students had the opportunity to hear from our mayor and ask questions, including about the annexation, building and development, and much more. We're very grateful for our community partnerships and for our community coming into our classrooms to share experiences with our students. Kudos to our Rangers for their spirit and success as our LPHS cheerleaders win Colorado Regionals and also qualify for Nationals. And if you visited Palmer Ridge recently, you might see a new addition to the office. It's Freddie the Bear, who was recently donated by Roger Williams, who is a community member who donated a taxidermied bear. Mr. Williams, actually, as I was able to attend this ceremony for the unveiling of Freddie, shared that his house was at one time where the current lobby of Palmer Ridge High School is, and the bear lived in his house at the time, and he wanted to give back to the community by donating the bear back to Palmer Ridge. We also want to recognize Bella Capel, who painted a design in the background of Freddie, which is a beautiful piece of art. When you are visiting Palmer Ridge, you'll want to make sure to take a look at her beautiful artwork. And thank you to all who were able to attend and support the annual Empty Bowls fundraiser for Tri-Lakes Cares. This annual event is sponsored by Lewis Palmer High School with the Kiwanis Club. There were many contributors to this event, including the Kiwanis Club, key club members from both high schools, professional and student artisans, talented young musicians from our schools, and dedicated D38 staff and board members who were able to help support the event as well. And that is the update I have to share this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Wetstein. Good update. Okay, let's see. So we are moving on to action item C, and the first one is Monument Academy Charter School. And I'd like to say thank you. We had a reception for our guests, and I'd like to welcome Ryan Graham, board president, Lindsay Clinton, who is the vice president, and Anna Arndt is the school culture and assessment coordinator. Jake Dukas is the operations manager. And then they're in the audience. You guys aren't presenting. I just wanted to welcome you all. and Kim McClellan, who's the interim chief as the executive director, and as I understand it, the interim chief financial officer, Glenn Gustafson, will be attending via Zoom. Is that correct?
No, he's celebrating his anniversary tonight. So I am going to do the best job I can to give a financial update with our slides. So I'll try to represent Glenn as well.
Excellent. Well, welcome, and thank you so much. I think I speak for all of our board when we value our partnership, and the community values a partnership with Monument Academy and D38, and all of our kids and all of our teachers in this community. We're lucky to have such excellent choices in our school, from our charter schools to our neighborhood schools, our homeschool Richmond Academy. And we even have St. Pete's. We're really blessed to have a lot of different options and choices to meet the needs of each student and their family. So welcome.
Thank you so much, President Upchurch. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening as well. These updates are vital to a charter authorizer relationship and giving the opportunity for you to get a view into how our charter is performing. So I do see the big value in that charter authorizer relationship, and this is just a small part of that. I also wanted to thank publicly our D38 administration for their partnership with MA. I have to say, these are an amazing group of individuals who have continually been open to meeting and collaborating on solutions for both organizations. I know I've known Amber, I've known Brett, I've known Casey for a while, and I feel like I'm a part of the team every time I come into the meetings. And so just thank you so much for welcoming me with open arms in the last almost year now that I've been here, since I took over halfway through last year. Their recent and upcoming school visits have been welcomed and greatly appreciated to get to know each other even better. So looking forward to November 7th on our East Campus visit that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight first slide that you see. This is just our mission. President Graham reads this at the beginning of every board meeting. We did go over our mission statement even with our strategic planning process, and the team didn't want to change anything because it's an amazing mission, and it really exemplifies everything that Monument Academy is. So I just wanted to read it because it is important. And so every decision that we make and what I'm updating you on definitely filters through our mission statement, and we keep that near and dear to our hearts. The mission statement of Monument Academy is to provide a challenging, content-rich academic program offered within an engaging, caring, and positive learning environment. It's established on a solid foundation of knowledge. Monument Academy emphasizes academic excellence, respect, responsibility, character, and exemplary citizenship. So I'm just going to go through, I didn't want to bore you with a bunch of slides, so all of these bullet points, I'm just going to give you some more detail into. The first is we did finish the 22-23 school year with strong consistency in our leadership. So all the leadership was consistent, and we didn't have any turnover in our leadership. In fact, we brought on some amazing leadership also with Anna Arndt as our school culture and assessment coordinator, so we were able even to bring that on. So because we do know that Monument Academy has had some hard leadership changes throughout the past few years, and this school year we were able to continue with that strong consistency. We also updated our organizational chart and added some clarity, which indeed added some clarity to our teams. Happy to share our org chart with you when I offer that for the annual report. I'll even give it to you guys on the 7th. But we did have the board approve that new org chart, and it really has created some good consistency for all of our teams to know kind of who do I ask for these different leadership roles, and even the different departments of who oversees different operational departments, who oversees finances, who oversees some of the academic side, who oversees some of the facility side, and how those positions really blend together to support the kids. And we actually put the kids at the top of the org chart. So our students start with the top, because really those are the ones that we're serving the most. And then we did have, we have new and returning board membership this year. So Director Matt Ross has joined us, and Board President Ryan Graham is returning. And we've the board's just done a phenomenal job. I love the partnership that I have with them. We did have a wonderful yearly retreat this last June where I presented the strategic plan, and we discussed how we would do board policy updates this year with switching to similar nomenclature that D38 has. And so that strategic plan and those policy updates will be ongoing throughout the upcoming years. And I'll give you a little bit of highlight at the end of this with my strategic plan. But I'm going to pass it to President Graham to just speak on a little bit more of what's been going on with our board updates.
Thank you, Mrs. McClellan. Board members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight, and thank you for the wonderful reception. It's good to catch up. It's good to be here. It seems like the only time I step in here is on an annual basis when we're here for these reports, so it's always good to catch up and meet with each of you. With your permission, I would like to share some highlights from our board to your board to give you an update. Just so you know, this is my 4th year on the Monument Academy board, my 3rd year as the president, and I have seen significant growth in the relationship between Monument Academy and D38, and I specifically would like to recognize Madam Chair Upchurch for the time that she commits to engaging with especially me and keeping the communication, the dialogue open, and we find that to be critical. I mean, we're here to serve these students. I mean, we have been entrusted to serve these kids, and I just want to thank Mrs. Upchurch for the time that she puts in to make sure that our boards are communicating and that we do have dialogue going on between each of us. Let me roll through some highlights for each of you. As most of you are aware, the MA board passed a resolution on June 27th regarding the privacy and protection of our students as it relates to Colorado Senate Bill 08200 and House Bill 211108. In August, we received a demand letter from the ACLU urging the MA board to retract the resolution. We have responded to the ACLU as of August 30th, letting them know that they have mischaracterized our resolution, and to our understanding, they are not currently representing a plaintiff against Monument Academy. So I update you to let you know that we are currently not engaged in any type of litigation with the ACLU. And I know that question has been out there, so I want to bring some truth to that tonight to let you know. Board, in regard to the aforementioned resolution, we are aiming to approve a policy that will align and further codify that resolution. We will be introducing a first read of that policy at our November 9th meeting. I would encourage you to listen in to that meeting or be present if you so desire. Additionally, the MA board last month adopted new policies on curriculum and selection of instructional materials, which provide guidelines for selection and procedures for review. And we are very thankful for the time that our administration has put into these policies, and these policies are online on our website under our board policy docs. For your awareness, next week we will be having a mid-year budget work session to discuss budget revisions before adopting our revised budget in November. And that will be happening on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at our East Campus. Some further updates, we will be holding an election next spring for 2 board members. I know our cycle is a little bit different. Our board members roll through a fiscal year, and those 2 individuals, they will be rolling off on June 30th. Obviously, they are able to run again if they choose to do so. And then for your awareness, in January, the board's intent is that we will be posting for a full-time executive director to start the 24-25 fiscal school year. Due to the nature of Mrs. McClellan's position as an interim executive director, we will post for a full-time position. This posting would not prohibit or prevent Mrs. McClellan from putting in, but part of our process is we will go out for a public posting and be looking for that sometime in January. MA will be holding our annual fundraising gala, which will be known as Light the Way for MA, on April 19th next year at Great Wolf Lodge. We expect an incredible turnout and a lot of generosity from our MA families and our community. And I would encourage you, if you would like to attend, to please go ahead and get your tickets now. And then lastly, I would like to encourage you as the D38 board to pay close attention to a bill that is being proposed in the legislature concerning non-legal name changes for students in schools. This bill will have impact on your traditional public and our charter school, and I would very much like to make sure that you are aware of this bill once session kicks off in January. That is my update for you. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and roll on with some notable, and thank you so much. I have to just say, I am completely blessed to work with such an amazing chair of a board. He has been so engaged, him and Lindsay both. I meet with them regularly, and it says a lot when an executive director and the board chair work side by side with one another and pave the way for the school. So I just want to thank Mr. Graham for all of his hard work. I think this is also another full-time job for him, like I have 2 full-time jobs. So I know how dedicated he is to the school, so just thank you. So some notable achievements and accomplishments that we've had. Monument Academy, a lot of these are all sports related. So apparently we kind of rock it in the sports arena with the middle school, and high school is now just starting on, since we do have our first graduating class, by the way, May 18th. So mark your calendars. The first graduating class of Monument Academy will be on May 18th. So that's my little plug for them. But MA is 1 month away from our vote with CHASA for our high school athletics, and we really do have a great shot of getting those votes in. Our advisor, Caleb Coates, has helped guide MA into a great position to be voted for this November. MA is looking forward to our first ever high school girls basketball season led by Coach Lainey Vance, and our boys team will be competing in their second season, being led by the returning coach, first-year head coach, Derek Rogers. Our high school girls volleyball is in their second season and wrapped up things with a back-to-back wins versus ECA and CSDB. We had our first JV team growing from 11 girls to 22 girls this year. So excited to see those girls coming out for some more sports. And our volleyball team was led by Levine and Debbie Capel. So high school boys cross-country team coached by Tom Eller placed first at the Thunder at the Divide meet in Elizabeth. This was the team's and school's first place finish. Our middle school cross-country team won multiple first-place finishes this year with boys and girls, including the CCAL Championship. They both competed at the state tournament on October 21st, and the boys took first place, winning the state championship for middle school cross-country. And my list goes on. Middle school boys soccer and football had a great year, but came up short after being able to compete in the championships or the playoffs. However, last year, the middle school football team did win the CCAL championship. Middle school volleyball also finished the season as the #1 seed and lost to CSCS in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs, but they were the CCAL championship, won the championships last year. We are just really excited about that first year girls basketball, so be on the lookout for that. And we will keep you updated on, and we've been really looking at, I know our athletic director has just really been working hard on trying to manage middle school and high school and utilizing gym space and whatnot. And so they will actually be renting gym space from New Summit Charter Academy because we just finished our gym down there. So we'll be having our ribbon cutting. And I was just telling Mrs. Upchurch about coming to the ribbon cutting for that because the MA will be able to join us with that. East and West campus demographics. So I thought, didn't know if you guys usually got this in the past. So I thought it would be interesting for you to hear a little bit about what is MA made up of. But enrollment-wise, October count hasn't been completely finalized. I know they're working on that and finalizing that. I think this last Friday they just finalized. And we are at 1,103 students. 0.12, not how you do a 0.12, but we are at 0.12. Last year it was 1,011, so we're down just a few students, but as you see across the board and across the state, enrollment is either down or flat. So we consider this a flat enrollment from year to year. I will say also, just as kind of looking at the demographics of our school, we are primarily white students. We do have middle schools 79, high schools 74%, and elementary is 84%. All of the other races are definitely lower than 1% in those areas, so we're primarily white, but we have 2 or more races than is where we make up that difference in 16% for middle school, 20% in high school, and in elementary school we are at 4.9%. So just kind of giving you some of that demographics, may be very similar to your own district demographics. We also, free and reduced lunch is very small. Middle school is only 4%, almost 5%, high school 3%, little over 3%, and then elementary school is at almost 5%, so 4.7%. Our ESS, which is our special education, the highest is at high school at 11.9%, middle school is at 6.72%, and then 6% at elementary. So it kind of gives you an idea of our ESS program. AOPs is our gifted and talented students. So high school, believe it or not, is almost 15%, so they're 14.29. Middle school is about 8%, a little over 8. And then elementary school is 5.3%. So, and then MTSS is very small. We don't have a whole lot going through MTSS. And then ELL is also very small. It's below 5% on all schools. So just giving you kind of a roundabout of who Monument Academy is there. Then also SPF outcomes. I know you guys have seen the SPFs already presented to you by Mrs. Wetstein, and she'll be presenting. I understand that the UIPs are being presented tonight along with our UIP that we did at the West Campus. We were required to do a UIP this year for West Campus because we were on an improvement plan type. So West Campus is, they had a 69.1% test participation. So it was definitely very low, which also can move you into an improvement plan type because of test participation as well. With a total score of 47.5, we were missing the performance plan type by 5.5 points. So you can imagine if we would have had all those kiddos testing, we might have put us over that 5.5% to make that up, because we just don't know when you don't have those kids testing. East Campus, middle school and high school, we had a 55% test participation rate with a performance plan type with a total score of 74.2. So definitely middle school was doing very well. We even had some exceed categories for high school and middle school. So one of our priorities this year is to work with families to help dispel some of those misconceptions about testing and encourage a culture of assessment to increase our test participation for CMAS this year. So I know even our SACs are continuing to try to communicate with families. We're going to be having Anna Arndt, our school culture and assessment coordinator, will be holding some information sessions for families. I think Dr. Brahm is going to be attending with us, and we're just so thankful to have him help us answer questions and whatnot. So we're excited about that so that we can continue to increase that participation to get better, to find out what's happening in our outcomes. So that brings me into our academic achievement and growth goals that you see in here. I'm not going to bore you with reading them one by one. I'm more than happy. It is in the dashboard that I did present to the district administration. Happy to share our dashboard with each of you as well. We are now completing a quarterly dashboard. Something I brought in as executive director is a quarterly dashboard that has everything from Dibble's assessment to our NWEA achievement and growth, median growth percentile assessments for every grade and every subject, in addition to our attendance goals, our behavior outcomes. So it's really great for our community and our board to see how is the school doing on quarterly, and what does that look like, and what kind of improvements, and what are we making, how are we making gains towards our goals that we have. So I'm very pleased that we did present this back to the board. Oh gosh, I believe that was in August or September. No, August. It was in August. And they got to see the last year's end of year data. So this was kind of like, this is what it's going to look like in the future. And then this year is sort of that baseline for the rest of our growth goals, because not every single grade and subject tested in NWEA last year. So we've got to kind of baseline that this year. So they'll be seeing that coming up in November for our next board meeting. We'll be updating them on the beginning of the year dashboard results. So happy again to share this with you all. But many of our goals that we set for academic and growth goals came off of the dashboard data that we did pull and that we pulled together as a team and really looked at it. I sat down with our data analyst and with all of our administration and said, all right, we got to unpack this. We got to look at this and what do we need to do for improvement. And it was great conversation. I feel like the more informed people are, the better decisions that they make, and that dispelling any misconceptions also for administrators and for teachers. So we also have recently presented the dashboard data and our UIPs to our staff, so that they can also see and make better decisions when they're using that in their professional learning communities that we've prioritized for this year. So our achievement goals really look at our increased percentage of students in grades K through 5 and 6 through 8. I'm just summarizing it, scoring on grade level in reading and math as measured by NWEA, MAP and Dibble's reading and mathematics assessments. So we wanted to have that be 85% by the end of 24-25 school year. So it's not the end of this year. We do like to look at 2-year goals so that we can see, we know that this is about in some grades it's a 5% jump, in other grades it's a 10% jump. So we're looking at trying to do that in 1 year is pretty difficult, but we are looking at that in a 2-year goal. So we'll revisit that throughout the next 2 years in our dashboard results and some of our analysis that we have with that. So middle school is the same way, 85% by the end of 24-25 school year. Again, that's at grade level, students scoring on grade level in both reading and mathematics. High school, we're looking at scoring in reading and mathematics as measured by PSAT with for 9th and 10th grade, and the SAT ERW and mathematics assessment at 85% as well. So everybody is at 85%. One of the things we discussed that was kind of eye-opening for some of our administrators, like, oh my gosh, that's a big jump. But our philosophy, and somewhat of my philosophy as an administrator, has always been, how can I tell if I keep it, if we're at 60%, let's say, I'm just using an example off the top of my head, and we want to go to 70% next year, then that's telling 30% of our families that their kids aren't at grade level. And my belief is that you raise the bar, and we've got to raise it to that 85% because that is a bigger goal, but it's an achievable. If you don't set the goals high enough, then we're not going to go to try to seek them and attain them. So 85% is a pretty big goal, but we have some things in place, and I believe we have the right staff in place to do that job and to do that job well. especially if we create a culture of data and assessment, and kids get involved, students get involved in creating those goals and knowing that the success of their success is going to help them into the future as well. So getting them involved as well. Our growth goals, because growth is just as important as achievement, if not more. And because we can get kids at that 85%, but if we don't continue growing them, that's difficult. Again, we want kids to continue to grow. So we're looking at median growth percentiles with NWEA MAP, and we're looking at getting our kids in K-5 and at the 65th percentile, and then in middle school, bringing them to the 60th percentile by 24-25. So again, we're looking at those 2-year growth goals. Is that my time up? I'm just kidding. You're like, data, data, data. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm telling you, it matters at Monument Academy. We also are looking at the 65th percentile for high school with ELA and math with PSAT 9 and 10. And then grades 9 through 12 will be looking at some, 11 and 12 will be looking at some other data as well. That's a lot with data. Targeted priorities, though, are ranging from additional PDs for teachers, implementation of PLCs, curriculum alignment, and that culture of data and assessment to make sure that we're meeting those goals. Attendance goals are also one of the things we looked at and had a good discussion about was attendance. And when kids aren't in school, they're not learning. And it is pretty shocking when you start to track average daily and monthly attendance, average attendance rates. And so we were able to show that in our handy dandy dashboard to show, hey, got to get your kids in school and make sure that they're here. Now, we do know that some parents, we've had COVID in the past and kids are forced to stay home because of, the rules with COVID and whatnot. But one of the things that we're looking at too is how do we encourage people to not take longer vacations and whatnot. But I'm a firm believer that parents are there to choose that for their children, but we do still need that students be in school. So we do have a goal of 96% by the end of the 23-24 school year, looking at that average daily attendance. I'm just going to move on to some event highlights and from our family and community. The MA community, I have to say, wow. I have gotten to know our PTO on both sides, and it's one of the fun parts of my job that I feel that I get to build relationships. I'm a huge capturing kids' hearts person, and relationships really do matter in my world. And so building relationships with parents is also equally important. And PTO is that first point, right? And the more you get to know them, the more you can kind of see some commonalities that you have, and it kind of tears down that wall that might sometimes be there. And so, but our PTO is so involved, and our community is very much involved in what's going on in our school. And so we've had the total volunteer hours that were logged this last year were 5,553 hours between August and July. So that was really fun that we're tracking that. We're even tracking it better this year with Parent Square. So I'm sure that there was probably some more hours in there that people didn't really report, but it is a lot of hours. That was done through different curriculum days. So if you've ever not been to one of our curriculum days, those are so much fun to see what our kids are doing. And some of these pictures that you'll see throughout here is from our curriculum days. That we have. Veterans Day that's coming up. I know there's some pretty awesome events that are coming up with that. Grandparents Day, we have our gala that President Graham talked about. Let's talk about high school. So that's an event that we're doing this year to taco about high school so that they can learn more about our high school and how awesome that is. 3 open houses for elementary, middle, and high school this year. Get the scoop on middle school. Some sneak peeks, kindergarten roundup, trunk or treat that we just recently had this last Saturday. I saw some pies in the faces of administrators. They got nailed. It was awesome. And then we will be adding a kindergarten signing day this year. How cute is that, right? And then PTO will have, they also have movie nights and lots of regular events. So lots going on. And I think homecoming is this week for our Monument Academy High School, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right? Head shakes. Okay. So lots of fun homecoming things for our high school as well. All right. I think that is it on there. So now I'm just going to talk very briefly. Again, this is Glenn's part, so please help me forgive me. But financial accounting cleanup this year. We really looked at our general ledger account codes and CDE compliance. That took a lot of time this year. And thank you, Brett, for your patience there. He did some great collaboration with us on that. Updated and adjusted several significant contracts that we had this year, so we were able to really dive into those to make sure that we were compliant on that. Implemented some cash management plan for better investment income. So Glenn really looked at some of our investment income, and we were able, I don't even know what the total number is. I think he might have it on another slide, but we have really been able to utilize Colorado Trust and some of that percentage that is going on that we've been able to utilize for more revenue, which has been extremely helpful. Implemented new quarterly financial statement format that we have been giving to the district, so that's definitely more compliant. Implemented a new budget format, which comes with that quarterly. Full compliance on bond covenants, and from the 2014 bond covenants are for the West Campus, and 2019 bonds are for the East Campus. We did return to outsourced payroll, so we were doing payroll through NetChecks, and we've recently transitioned that back over to the SDS financial system. We found we had a few bumps, but we are well on our way. As you probably know, anytime you transition something, there's things that you just don't expect, and but that's been a big project. Developing, documenting, and accounting procedures a little bit better. And then we will be presenting to our board the D-series financial policies, which are in progress. So we'll be presenting all of those in one big lump sum so that it switches over with what the board has for their nomenclature as well. Some financial results, you can see that up here. Our general fund net income was $410,000. Secondary came in a little bit short, but not by much. This was an amazing update compared to what Glenn and I were able to come into. So we were able to really look at our practices that we kind of have together as leaders. We were really able to unpack things just from best practices that we know to help the school get to what you see here with our net income. Preschool net fund net income was at $22,000. Our building court net income was $51,000. And our foundation fund and East bonds were just a little short of $50,000. So student activity fund, $12,000, and then full compliance with our days cash on hand and requirement for our bonds. So things are looking good. Some things that we're looking at for the future in terms of some projects that we want to look at is definitely that the west parking lot acquisition. So we're looking at purchasing, hopefully, maybe, the west parking lot. So if you've ever been there, there's a dirt lot that is owned by someone that we work with, and we want to try to purchase that so that we can have more parking, because even the recirculation project has created a less parking situation. So it is imperative that we work on purchasing that parking lot. Another one is we are working, and we've just submitted this last week, I believe on Friday, the employee retention tax credit with the IRS. We're hoping that it would give us some additional income of approximately $1 million. Restructuring our copier contract. We found out, even going through all these contracts, that our copier contract, we could probably save some money there. We are working through with our board, as President Graham said, that in our work session, we're looking at that 23-24 mid-year budget with a flat enrollment. And then bringing decentralized purchasing, that is some more projects that we're working on. So we're going to be doing a different PO system and whatnot through SDS. And then our new employee handbook and leave policy has also will affect, if you recall, I don't know if you know, but next year, any leave that you have that you may know that people are going to need to be paid out, or you notice in your leave policy, that has to be booked in your finances next year. So we're trying to prepare for that as well, as we're looking at our leave policy, since that expense needs to be booked in our finances next year. So making sure that we're just planning ahead there. And then last, our strategic plan goals. You can see up here the 4 main areas that we're focused on is student performance and academic growth. And then what you see, so that's the goal. The bullet points are our objectives. And so then underneath each of those objectives is a strategy that our teams are beginning to work on to create what strategy are we going to use for curriculum, quality curriculum access and alignment. What are some of the strategies that they need to do with that? And they'll be working through that, and then we'll present those to the board as the teams start to identify that. Organizational development is another major area that we looked at. You can see the objectives underneath there. Definitely, I mean, even our org chart met the need of establishing an efficient and sustainable school operation model. That's being able to provide clarity to our staff in looking at that. We're also utilizing the RACI model, which for operations, so that people are clear on what is expected and who's responsible for what, so we're not stepping on each other. So that's one of the other areas. Financial health, making sure that we have a balanced organizational budget and that we have bond compliance. And then talent initiatives came up for our team, as I think that's definitely something that's been coming up here as well. I think it's across the board in education, is how do we retain and attract and hire quality people, and what does that look like, and how do we celebrate their successes, and but really developing a very comprehensive talent management system so that we can be competitive with even you guys. So, and that is it. I just want to pass it off to Ryan if you have any last minute updates from my update. Anything you wanted to add?
Something I neglected to mention is the recirculation project. If you've been down 105 in recent last weeks, months, you've noticed a lot of construction. So MA West, we have been engaged in a project with the county for the last 3 years to have a recirculation road put in behind our campus. That road is complete, but the further part of this project will be, there's another road that will be carved in on our property on the south side of the campus, and essentially what's going to happen is that Knollwood will have a roundabout put in. You'll notice Knollwood is shut down right now. When that roundabout is complete at Knollwood and Village Ridge Point, that will become the only ingress-egress onto Village Ridge Point to MA. They are proposing that that project will be completed by the end of summer next year, and that will essentially create our new traffic plan for the 24-25 fiscal year. And we will be entering in, going in front of the school, looping back out, and going in behind the school and looping back out, and that'll be our permanent plan. The LDS Church has been very gracious in allowing us to continue to egress out at current time onto 105. There will be a barrier put up there once the project is completed that will only be used for ingress, egress for emergency purposes. So, and to Ms. McClellan's point on the dirt lot, we are in a lease agreement until May of 2026, utilizing that dirt lot for parking purposes. But our intent is to purchase that lot as a permanent fix to our parking needs at MA West. Thank you for the opportunity to sit up here and speak tonight.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Wonderful presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you here, Ryan.
Yes, and thank you both for your service. I didn't realize it was coming to an end here, and this is the first of 2 meetings, so thank you for the years of service.
Mm-hmm.
Rep Board, anyone else?
I'd like to just share publicly my appreciation on behalf of our entire executive team for Ms. McClelland and the expertise in charter leadership that she brings and the collaboration that she's brought to our team. So thank you, Kim, for all that you have done to help strengthen our partnership.
You're welcome. It's a blessing.
Thank you all, and thank you all for being here as well. And it's always a pleasure to connect. And that was a very thorough update, and appreciate it. The connection and the collaboration is so paramount in this community and with our parents and our staff, and making sure that we're all taking care of our kids.
Thank
you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Graham, for your service as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on to our next discussion item is C2, financial planning and analysis. Mr. Ridgway.
Hello. We can get to the good stuff now.
Yes, we can.
All right. So last month, as you recall, I didn't really have a financial update. We talked about enrollment real briefly, and I do just want to reconnect and reset on the enrollment numbers. They mentioned here in the MA update a little bit about their enrollment and it being flat from last year. That does provide a budget challenge for them that they will be working on, as they mentioned in their amended budget, of about 6.5% or so of an enrollment decline. For the operated schools here, what we see in the two pink numbers here are the key numbers. The operated schools are down 34, MA is down 80 from the budget. And so our 34 students on the operated schools represent about 1/2 of 1%. So unfortunate that it is a decline. As was mentioned earlier, there is a lot of consistency across districts, not only in the region but around the state, about lower enrollment this year, especially in the elementary schools and the elementary grades. Every once in a while, we get some really interesting phenomena that play out like that. So it's not like those 34 students are popping up in another district. The other districts are down as well from their projections in elementary. So I don't know exactly what the story is. You'd have to ask probably 1,000 different families what their reason is. But it is the reality for us as that comes into the count. On the second page of this particular file, I carry that out and just do some high-level calculations to talk about what does this mean as an overall budget variance. So again, when it's only 34 students for the total operated portfolio, it doesn't really cause a risk to our adopted budget in total. There are some shifts within it in terms of different schools being up or being down. And so we're working with either the administration team and with the principal team on how we might suggest addressing those, but we don't believe that there's going to be any significant changes in any program, any school building as a result of the student count and the impacts it will have on the amended budget in terms of funding.
Okay.
So any questions on that before I move to the financial package?
I had a question, but I'll see if anybody else has questions first.
I don't.
Go for it.
So it sounds like, but not to paraphrase, the numbers, at least for the operating schools, are within the margin of error.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
So was going to be, I had two questions I was going to ask about.
Yeah, I read that from your notes.
You always cheat when you're looking at my notes. And the question I had also is, when we're looking at these numbers and the variances, I was looking at by the buildings, and I was just curious, do we have a way to look at or learn the different reasons that we might be losing or gaining? There's a significant change. So and I'll give you an example. I was looking at Kilmer High School or Kilmer Elementary, and there's the variance in Kilmer. Is there a way to find out what might spur that?
Well, I certainly can do more detailed analysis. That what I'm showing you here is just the total budget for the school. I do have the budget by grade level as well. And so when we do as October count is in process right now. In fact, it's going to be winding up here pretty soon, and we'll get certified, and that will give us the actual numbers, the actual results. Then we'll be able to do some good analysis and reporting on that to say, if you look at Kilmer's pattern here, in terms of the grade level numbers, I will be able to say, okay, where does this variance really occur? Is there a concentration at all, or is it kind of spread out? And also we'll be able to do some analysis in terms of students that returned year over year, and if there's any particular anomaly that might kind of reveal itself through that type of analysis. So I don't have an answer for your question right now, but it is something that we can get a little bit down the road, but we'll never really get a real, true, complete answer on it. just because again, it requires individual conversations with individual families to know each story.
I was just curious if families ever give feedback, like, well, I have to drive too far to the bus stop, or, we're moving to a different school district, or it's something I've pondered also when we see the variances, if we have a mechanism to drill down on, is there a metric or a measurement to help us know if there's something we can do to improve, or if we're right on track? It was just a curiosity.
I think it's definitely a good point and a good question. I think maybe one of the things we could see I don't know what kind of data we capture in terms of disenrollments, because disenrollments would be one particular point of data that we could see if we have useful information in that we could aggregate and make into a presentation. So I will check into that.
Okay, I was just curious because I wondered. I know enrollment's down across the state, and Monument Academy's down. I think Ms. McClellan said even Summit's down. So I was just curious what we are doing different in D38, or if there is anything we can do different in D38. I really appreciate the way you laid this out, because it also gives an understanding of when we're looking at our budgeted funding, recognizing that, for example, our budgeted UPK, Universal Preschool, that's half FTE. That's not a full-time equivalent. And although I don't want to think about students walking around our district with dollar signs on the top of their heads, there is the reality that per pupil revenue is what drives the budget.
Yes, there is, and the UPK program, as it replacing the previous CPP and the traditional tuition-based preschool programs that we've had, from a funding perspective, it is providing actually improved funding over what we had experienced in the past. And so, because what we would have had to do in the past is there was some subsidy that the general fund would have to do to the preschool programs, because the CPP payments or the tuition payments we were charging weren't enough to actually cover the cost of the programs, whereas the UPK program is providing full cost reimbursement for the preschools.
Thank you so much. And then I have one more question before we move on. Do we have a CENT program?
We do. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but we do have students participating in Ascent.
I don't need numbers. I was just curious.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
But it's pretty small.
And we don't get full time on that, but we get some. Okay. That was all my questions. Anyone else?
Yeah, just looking back at those 34 students that were down, and even though it's in the margin of error, at this time last year, were we down, flat, or up?
You wanted me to think back 12 months? There's a lot of numbers since then.
Take your time. We have all night.
That's why I bring my computer up here with me, by the way.
No, where I'm going is this actually a trend or an anomaly?
We were under budget last year as well. What's different between this year and last year is last year we were had expected to grow from the prior year. So we grew into 22-23 from 21-22. The growth wasn't as high. This year, if you recall, we actually were predicting a small decrease in enrollment year over year, and our decrease is actually being a little bit more than we expected. So each year we kind of missed just under the budget target. Last year the growth wasn't quite as much as we expected. This year the decline is a little bit more than we expected, but all still very tight.
Right. So with respect for it's in the margin of error, right? Meaning
yes,
it's non-impactful to our students and our staff, right? And our capital improvement plans. The question I have is, do we have a trend happening where enrollment is down in K through 12 in our district and in our state and in our country?
I would say yes to your question in terms of in the district, in the region, in the state, for sure. I don't know about the country so much, but I think yes, we see that happening and being present, I should say, in the results that we have year to year. Across the board, that and it's been consistent since the pandemic started, that there were student count that basically disappeared at that point and still has never fully rematerialized.
Okay, so I think when we work with our demographer, one of the things we might consider as a team is it an anomaly or a trend? And if it's a trend, what are the dynamics that create the trend?
Mm-hmm.
And do we anticipate them continuing? And if we do, then we make adjustments accordingly. Because eventually 34 and 34 and 34 and 34 makes a couple hundred, and then we're outside of the margin of error.
Yeah, it's definitely getting closer to trend when we see it in several years consecutive like this.
And that's where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. We typically, before I was on this board, before the pandemic, we used to see a trend of about, give or take, 2% growth rate per year. And then given, with the exceptions of anomalies. And so that's a really good question. Is this an anomaly from recovery, or is this a trend?
Yeah, and we probably find some national data that says, is the youth in the United States flat, growing, shrinking? And then we can use that as a benchmark,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's credible.
Great impact.
Anything else? Then we'll go to the big file here. And I won't spend too much time, because as I say every time we come to this, this is not meant to be a front to back read. This is a reference tool that allows you to seek and answer any particular question. Of course, this is posted. It has bookmarks with it, so you can move your navigation a little bit quicker. And typically, I jump straight into the graphical presentations section, which focuses on the general fund, which is where most of the action happens. The early pages of the package consider all the fund results, but we focus in on the general fund here. And with this graphical presentation, we reintroduced where we're at in this time of year, where our fund balance that we begin the year with, which is mainly established not only to cover the requirements of Tabor, but also to manage our cash flow throughout the year, since we have a seasonal pattern to our cash flow where we erode fund balance, i.e. we use cash faster than it's coming in, because property tax revenue does not come in until the spring. Yeah, but our expense load is pretty even throughout the year. So what you see in the bottom part of this graph is this month-to-month demonstration, and the blue columns are the budget, and the orange columns are the actual results. And again, so you see the typical erosion from the beginning point of the year as we're heading towards the February trough. Now, interestingly, as somewhat of a side note at this point, but probably more to come in the future, is that there is an idea that I'm working on with Senator Lundeen, and to mention a few other people, to improve cash flow for districts across the state. Mm-hmm. And so working on that in the off season of the legislative session, and so hopefully something will come to fruition on that as the legislative session begins here in January. And like I said, we'll know more as we get closer to that, and be able to bring you some more specific details about that.
May I make a comment on that?
Sure.
Just for the board's edification, because I'm attempting to do a little work with Mr. Ridgway on that. It's not insignificant. Mm-hmm. If he's successful, number one, it fixes a major problem around the state. And the problem is very simple. Money comes in a lumpy fashion, and we spend it in an even fashion. And that creates this trough in February, where you have to hold $10 million of cash in order to fund this trough. Mm-hmm. If you look across the state, it's about $667 million that would be made available, just like our $10 million, that we could use for our students and staff. This is taxpayer money for education, not for cash flow. So it's what he has introduced and is working on is quite significant, not just for our community, but for the entire state.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. We're really excited about it, and hope it comes to fruition. Other pages in here, of course, as we scroll down here in these graphical presentations, we have a little bit more information on revenue. We have a little bit more information on expense. One caveat I wanted to make with this particular presentation, especially since it's the first one of this fiscal year, the data that I pulled to run this report bled into October actually quite a bit. And so what you'll see here, for instance, if you look at the total district general fund and look at our total spend, it would indicate that we're 25.7% spent of the budget this year. I'm presenting this as if it's September 30th data, but really there's a lot of October money that came into this as well. I had earlier versions of this that indicated that actually through September we were about 1% under the 25% pace. But as I was continuing to build and refine the project here, and I was needing to re-pull data, some October information leaked into this. What I'd made sure to do is stop though and not get October payroll into this, because that would be another full month increment. I might as well say that we're 33% through the year at that point. So I just don't want you to be alarmed. Think that we are over pace here with that 25.7% number versus our 25% pace. Other things I would want to draw your attention to is compensation and staffing. Last year we got into a pattern of reviewing kind of our compensation and our personnel spend at the work sessions, and we will get back to that pattern. But here's the data as it sits now. And this is what this is telling is just a good story. Again, that the orange columns are the projection of actual, the blue columns are the budget again, and the fact that you see in terms of the segments of the general fund staffing here, in administration, teachers license, professional technical, and the classified support, all of those budgets are really looking really good and spot on so far early in this year. So since the vast majority of our budget, of course, is spent in personnel, it's always good to know and be aware of this information here. Final thing I wanted to show you is actually a new piece of information that I have not had in here before, and that's I have a specific series of reports and graphs now about utility spends. This will come more and more into focus as we get into the measurement period of our Schneider contract relationship, which was of course is intended to provide some efficiencies on utilities, specific electricity, but also water, I believe, and to some degree. So just kind of starting to put this in there so we'll have it as a consistent point of reference going forward, and as we see whether what we're able to achieve with these improvements that we've been investing in for these last couple of years.
What's the x-axis, the numbers?
The numbers, so if you go over to the far left side with the number, you have the numbers related to each school. And so those represent the general ledger codes for the school locations. I did that to save space, because if I try and put the word transportation over there, then it was really smashing up the graph.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good question. I appreciate you asking that. So yeah, just one section each for electricity, gas, and water on that.
And what do the colors represent?
So the colors represent here in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see the color code for it's just the different fiscal years that are graphed here. What in terms of the numbers, you'll see that I'm presenting historical information starting in the 18-19 fiscal year, which again I'm doing that with some intention because as we move into this period and we want to see how these impacts to our utility program manifest, I wanted to be able to have a good historical baseline that we can look back towards to see does this play out as we would hope it would. And so going back to 18-19 is in terms of the numbers on the graphs, I do trim it down and just start back in the 21-22 year on the chart here. So and so it reads on the chart. It reads kind of from left to right with each location. So if you look at number 110 here, that's the electricity spend for Lewis Palmer Elementary School. And so you have the 21-22 actual, the 22-23 actual, and then the 23-24 budget. And then the little column right now is little, of course, because we're early in the year. It would be this current year's actual. So that orange column will go and grow up as we go throughout the year and get closer into that budget amount. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Sure. So the other 90 odd pages, I probably will leave you to digest on your own, unless you'd like me to go through those one at a time.
I really appreciate the new graphs, the electricity and.
Sure, and there's going to be more. You know, there's been some great work done by our Guiding Coalition team, and they have some great ideas that I want to introduce into this package as well in terms of additional graphical presentations. So, looking forward to doing that.
Might I suggest a more in-depth analysis in the December board meeting?
Yes? Okay. December meeting specifically?
Might I invite Mr. Clausen to join us for that meeting?
Certainly.
Just a real quick question. Is there any recourse for Schneider if we don't meet our cost savings objectives? I don't recall hearing anything about that.
No, there's a guaranteed recovery in the agreement. And so I think we'll be bringing that to you. We'll be having some specific presentation from them and with them about as we get what we call into the measurement period, meaning all the work is done and now we're into this measurement period of this guarantee, and this guarantee period will go on for several years. And so there will be some recourse for that to make sure that we achieve some minimum amount.
Good questions. And thank you for the added piece of transparency there too. I think that can never have enough information when it comes to budget. Sometimes I get stuck in analysis paralysis, but I like it.
Good.
Anyone else? Do our student liaisons have any thoughts or input? Things
Have
going
I
good?
attracted you to accounting or scared you away? Yeah? All right.
Anything else we need to know or that you wish we would ask you, Mr. Ridgway?
You could ask me what happened in the National League Championship Series tonight in Game 6, because being from Arizona.
What happened in the national championship game?
The Diamondbacks won, forced to Game 7, so.
All right. Are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Moving on to C3, consider and approve financial transparency committee membership. Mr. Ridgway, this is also you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have a motion? Do you want to present some information first, or we can go straight into motion?
Can I make a motion? Where's the motion? To approve the Financial Transparency Committee membership for school year 23-24, 2023-2024, as recommended by the Lewis Palmer School District 38 administration.
I'd second it.
Discussion? Any discussion?
Just in terms of presentation, I had one document here that I prepared in terms of to talk a little bit about the transition that we are making here from what was the prior iteration of the Financial Advisory Committee into this Financial Transparency Committee, and making this change so that the group and the mission of this has some real purpose, some formality to it that I think was lacking in the past. And so the committee, as it begins to take some initial steps into this realm, again, focusing on transparency, focusing on the budget subcommittee requirements of the DAC, that's in statute, as we call the PCAC here, but really to focus on transparency and to help with fluency and understanding in the community of what school district business is like and what are the key issues in play there. So that's what a lot of what this document in here is to describe that. And I guess that's all I would say, unless there are questions.
Seeing no further discussion, Ms. Wood, would you take the roll?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next item of business, C4, consider approved policy revisions GDD, support staff vacations and holidays. We'd like to invite Ms. Welch to come up.
Ms. Upchurch, could I make a motion, please?
Yes, sir.
to approve the revisions to policy GDD staff vacations and holiday as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Seeing none? Ms. Wood, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Ms. Welch, you're off the hook.
Well, that was easy. Thanks.
Wonderful job, Ms. Walsh.
Thank you. Actually, it is a wonderful job. Thank you for bringing this to our attention and for working on this. I think it's, from what I've heard, it's a good improvement for our staff. So thank you so much. I've seen a lot of good work and a lot of great improvements since you've come on board in this role, and I really appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And quite frankly, your presentation was so well done that I reviewed it, and I'm thinking I don't have any questions, so we could just vote on it. So thank you.
This presentation? Oh, thank you. Quite simple.
Moving on to action item board discussion 5, policy revisions, first reading of KDB, public's right to know and freedom of information. This is not an item that we'll vote on. This is being presented to us by Communications Director, Mr. Mark Belcher.
Bark, I like that. Well, unlike Mr. Ridgway, please don't ask me what happened to the Buffalo Bills this Sunday. So we'll avoid that topic altogether.
Does anybody know what the 49ers score is?
No! Not great so far. But I can keep this short so you can see the end of that game. So KDB and KDB-R are a suite of policies that govern our freedom of information and the KORA law. So very briefly, very simply, KDB, we've added a paragraph to start the policy off to connect it very closely to KORA and tie it closely to KDB-R. Essentially, we just want to make sure our public is fully aware of how we handle things at District 38. We want them to know that all KORA requests are going to be handled the same way, and we want that to be clear in policy.
Team, any questions or discussion?
I just want to make a comment. I
Sure.
guess I don't have a question, but I remember when I first came on the board that KORA requests were numerous, and I think there was a bit of contention back then about people from the public requesting, and there was a little bit of just tension, I guess I would say. I just want to acknowledge your professionalism since you've been on board with D38, and that those people coming forward with KORA requests often speak to you personally, and that I think this policy just makes everything fluid and streamlined for the district and the administration. And for you as well, because you run a rather slim department, and I want to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you.
So all of this is not only to D38's benefit to have this policy shorn up and really well articulated, but also for our public so that they have access that they want and or need when they make a KORA request. So thank you for your efforts in this regard, and appreciate that people, that you're always open to people corresponding with you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We're very much so committed to making sure the public has access to any information that they might need, but also the records that they require. So appreciate that recognition a lot.
Thank you.
Very well spoken, Ms. Phillips. Transparency and that consistency, I appreciate that and applaud that. And there's also been some change to legislation as it applies to KORA requests as well. So making sure that we're consistent, that everybody knows we're on the same page, I think is important. Anyone else? No? Well, that was a short discussion. Thank you, sir. We will vote on this at our next regular board meeting for our second reading. Moving along to item C6, to consider and approve our unified improvement plans for the D38 schools. We're going to put Ms. Wetstein on the hot seat for this one, which is not really a hot seat. It's more this is the follow-up, if everyone recalls, this is the follow-up to the information as it applies to the turnaround plans from our testing. And I'll let you just keep,
Okay,
I'm just gonna
yes, thank you. You heard a thorough performance report from Ms. McClelland earlier this evening, and we provided a comprehensive report on our student assessment results at the last regular board meeting. At that time, I shared that we would be bringing forth 3 improvement plans for approval, which have already been uploaded to the state website. These are due to low academic performance at Monument Academy, likely due to low participation, as Ms. McClelland alluded to. And we did not meet the 95% threshold for participation at both of our operated high schools. And so these plans are required for compliance purposes, as our 3 schools in this case were identified as having an improvement plan type. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
To approve the Unified Improvement Plans for Lewis Palmer High School, Palmer Ridge High School, and Monument Academy Charter School for submission to the Colorado Department of Education.
I'll second that motion.
He beat you to it. Discussion? We're not discussing who beat who to the microphone. No? All right. Thank you so much. Ms. Wood?
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Moving on to our last item on C, consent agenda, to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I can withdraw that motion if you'd like to make it, Ron.
No, I'm out of emotions.
I am going to take a little bit of president privilege real quick. There is one item that is on the consent agenda, and I want to pull it only because I want to remind folks when it comes up. And that is
Ms. Upchurch, just so we're clear, you're not pulling it, we're discussing it.
discussing it in discussion.
Before we vote it.
Yes,
vote on
before
it.
we vote on it. I'm ready to vote, I just want to discuss. Which is our Schmidt construction on Lewis Palmer Middle School. And I want to remind folks that what this is about is this is what's triggering the new bus route, the drop-off and pickup space that will be at the new middle school, correct? Anybody want to answer that? Mr. Coulter? Thank you, sir.
This is in an effort, this is really a focus on a safety effort. This is going to isolate all of the, currently the buses now sort of engage in a hybrid type manner with parents as well as walkers and kids that are kind of crossing the street, that type of a situation. So you have to have various different elements of certainly safety, and you also have cooperation that needs to occur in the current situation. And some days, based on whether it be weather or other circumstances that might be happening, folks being late or whatever the situation might be, you know, it just sort of adds risk. And to avoid that risk, we want to move the buses away and not sort of engage in this hybrid type situation that's going on right now. So we are moving the buses, all of the buses, 22 different spots are going to be created in that north lot up on the higher edge of the Lewis Palmer Middle School campus. And we certainly see that as a huge safety plus.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
I just wanted to bring that to the forefront because when that begins, when there's questions being asked, that we're reminded. So,
No, work will begin on that
okay.
very quickly.
Anyone else for discussion? Ms. Wood? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Clausen.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Okay, E3, future meeting agenda items. Is there anything that the team would like to add to future meeting agenda? Work session or board session? And if there's nothing that pops up, no light bulb right now, you can email Dr. Summers. Ms. Schwartz, we have a agenda setting coming up.
I'm ready to go.
Anyone else? Anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? No? All right. Well, then, we are adjourned before 8 o'clock.
Congratulations.